met my guest, whose name is Jael, my namesake. I met her. She's I don't know how to even explain. Like when I know how I met her, but to explain the connection, knowing that you have the same name with someone, I'll get to that in a little bit. But I was supposed to meet up with someone that we know mutually, who was doing a book launch. And the person said to me, or the person's Desmond, he said to me, "Oh, we're meeting up at this restaurant and whatever." Anyways, they were running behind, and I get to the restaurant, and he sends me a text message, and he says, "Yeah, if you just go look for Jael." And I'm like, he says it right in the conversation, and I was like, is he calling my name? Like, is something wrong? Like, because he keeps saying, just ask for Jael. I'm like, is he sending me somebody else's message? And so I'm like, well, I'm here right now. Who should I ask for? He's like, Jael. And I'm like, who? He's like, oh, Jael, ask for Jael. Her name is Jael too. You guys have the same name. So I walk into the restaurant, and there she is. And we said hi, and we get to talking, and turns out we have like a lot of mutual people that we know. We just never met each other. She knows actually two of my cousins. Her kid and their kids, they play basketball together, and they know each other, and it was just coincidental. And they were like, oh, it was just a matter of time. And I'm like, yo, y'all never told me that y'all knew somebody else who had the same name as me. Like, what's going on? What's up with that? Anyhow, we got to meet in and found out a little bit more about her. I think she's an amazing woman doing great things here in Canada. And I felt the need to especially during this time when people are home and people are wondering what to do. She's an author. She writes for CBC. And I just felt, it would be a really, really great time to get her on the show today. So, without no further ado, just want to welcome my guests. This time, send some love to the other Jael. Hi, Jael. How are you?
I'm right. Ready to roll.
Yes. Welcome to Cacoa Tea. It's so nice to have you here with me. And first of all, before we even get into the conversation, what was it like meeting another Jael?
Well, I think the thing that's significant about it is not just meeting another Jael, because I have seen other Jaels like on TV. I've heard about other Jaels. I think it's the Black Jael thing that's like was particularly exciting for me. There is a girl in Brampton also named Jael. She's younger, so I know her mom, but I've never met her. And so she's the only other Black Jael that I know like exists in the world. It's a Jewish name, so a lot of people who are Jewish or of a Hebrew background, they have the name Jael, which they usually pronounce Yael. So it's unusual to meet someone with the name Jael, but you are for sure the first Black Jael I ever met, and I feel like that's special. Yeah.
Oh, I feel so special. Thank you very much for coming on the show with me. I like to get the show started. Every single show is pretty much the same in terms of how I go about introducing my guests. A lot of times, folks, there's a perception of who you are out there, and people tend to have their own ideas as to who an individual is. I always start my show by asking, who are you?
I mean, that is like a big philosophical question. Who are you? I think, I don't know. Well, I know what I do. What I do for a living is I'm an author. I am the artistic director and founder of the Festival of Literary Diversity and the Fold Foundation, which is a festival that really celebrates, highlights underrepresented authors and storytellers. So that's what I do. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a mom of 1 plus 3 teenagers that have come into my life. And I think that's really a lot about who I am. I've learned a lot about who I am from being a parent and being a wife. And so I think those things aren't things that single-handedly define me, but they've come to shape me. I'm also a person of faith. So I think I'm very much driven by what I believe, and that certainly influences like a very strong, large percentage of who I am. And yeah, so that's a very long answer to your, 3-word question, 4-word question.
How are you dealing with? Because you're in Toronto right now. How are you dealing with this new life of seclusion, aka isolation, aka quarantine?
um, So I live in Brampton, just outside of Toronto, and normally this time of year I'm planning a literary festival that also takes place in Brampton. And so usually it's a lot of like driving around, moving around, picking my kid up, taking him to basketball, but then also doing like work. So I have to say for me, quarantine has been kind of good. I shouldn't say that, but um, in that I've had a lot more time at home. I work from home normally, but there's just less to do. There's lots of other things that I'm obligated to do. We've turned our festival into a completely virtual and online festival. So I'm still working really hard at that. I have a lot of work to do every day, but I feel a little bit more actually capable of getting everything done because I'm not running around doing all the other things. I think the hardest thing for me has been mixing in, kind of helping my son through school while I'm doing that. That's been a little bit of a tricky balance, but I'm finding a groove. Week 3, I'm figuring things out.
That's good. How do you feel like mentally? Do you
How do I
feel
feel mentally?
calm?
Mentally, it goes up and down. Yeah, mentally, it goes up and down. I think when it's good, it's great. It's fine. When it's hard, like when my son and I aren't getting along, or when my husband and I aren't getting along, or when I have to clean or do other things, or those things that generally cause friction, I think that's the hardest time because there's no escape. There's no where to go. There's no other people to sort of like, hug on and be like, it's going to be okay. It's sort of, you kind of have to work through all these conflicts and issues and just sort of face the same people the next day and the next day. So I think that emotionally, I sort of go up and down. I'm kind of a roll with the punches kind of person, though, I'm realizing. So it's, you deal with the disappointment of like lost opportunities, things that you wanted to do, things that you're planning to do, trips that you're planning to do. And once I sort of get past that, I sort of make a new reality for myself. And it's just like, oh, this is going to be my life for the next, I don't know, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, however long this is going to continue, months. I sort of build a new reality from that and just try and find good things that I can only do during quarantine, for example. And so that's been kind of fun.
Nice, very nice. Chana, I want to get into your life a little bit.
Mhm.
For the folks who don't know, besides being an author, you are also somewhat the child of someone who is famous.
Yes.
You are the daughter of Chuck Ely, who was the very first Black man
Mm-hmm.
to win the Grey Cup.
Mm-hmm.
What was your childhood like? Like, famous dad.
So the Grey Cup is like Canada's Super Bowl, and the Canadian Football League is Canada's only like national sports league. It's the only league we have where it's all Canadian teams. We briefly had a few American teams that didn't work out so well. We're back to just all Canadian teams. And my dad was the first Black quarterback to win the Grey Cup, and actually growing up was like I had a weird childhood in that I thought my childhood was really normal. Like I thought that and I want to put quotation marks around normal because I think we make assumptions about what normal is. But growing up, I thought it was, and I think every kid maybe thinks that their life is normal, and it's not until some point in life where people point out like that's not normal for whatever reason. For me, I thought it was normal. My dad had been famous, but he wasn't like hugely famous. By the time I came around, he wasn't playing sports anymore. Not everybody watches the Canadian Football League. So I could go lots of places and he was just like a normal dad. I would go other places and people would lose their minds around him and tell me like 1,000 stories about the games he won and the things he did. So those were the moments where I was kind of like, what's going on? What's wrong with this person? Why are they asking him to sign their napkin? And I think I didn't realize until much later in life that I had grown up quite privileged, that were quite affluent. And I would say like middle to upper class. We weren't like living in a giant house with like 5 cars, but I had sort of, my dad really took good care of us, and grew up very poor, but had built a life for me where we just had everything we wanted, everything we needed. And so I think that's something that my first book, The Stone Thrower, is about my dad's life. It's about his career and what I learned about his career and what I came to find in my 20s as I was about to become a mother. I started researching, and then I went to write this book. And it was in writing the book that I could really look back and be like, oh, our life was a little bit above normal. And my dad did all that. He went from poverty to privilege in like less than a generation. He made it happen in his lifetime. And so I guess that's what's a little bit unusual about my life.